In what began as a routine morning show segment, Hugh Jackman appeared as a guest on The View, invited to promote his upcoming project and to share some lighter anecdotes. The atmosphere in the studio was friendly, hosts exchanged pleasantries, the audience applauded, and initial questions were warm and complimentary. But the tone shifted quickly when Behar, known for her bluntness and sharp wit, posed a provocative question that seemed to catch Jackman off guard. The camera cut to his expression, surprise, then a flicker of defensiveness. The interplay of jovial banter turned tense in a matter of minutes, and the viewers at home would soon witness an escalation that would go viral. Behar leaned forward, eyes fixed on Jackman, and asked him to address a controversial statement attributed to him in a recent interview, a statement he claimed was misquoted. She pressed him, "Did you really say that, or are you now distancing yourself?" The pressure of being on live television compounded the moment, and Jackman's calm facade showed cracks. He paused, choosing his words carefully, but Joy's tone sharpened. The co-hosts watched uncertainly, and the audience hushed, as the dynamic shifted from cordial to confrontational almost imperceptibly. Jackman, caught between maintaining his composure and confronting the challenge, replied in a measured tone. He denied the assertion and explained the context, saying his words were taken out of line, misrepresented by the press, and meant differently. He attempted to steer back to lighter ground, referencing his upcoming film and philanthropic work, but Joy pressed on, demanding accountability and clarity. The tension mounted, his voice remained controlled, yet the underlying irritation was audible to any careful listener. The back and forth continued. Joy persisted in returning to the contentious subject, refusing to let him pivot. Jackman, feeling boxed in, became more resolute. He reminded her and the audience that interviews are edited, that sound bites can mislead, and that nuance is often lost. The co-hosts interjected occasionally, trying to mediate or lighten the mood, but Joy barred attempts to redirect the segment. The studio's energy became electric, with visible discomfort in the faces of those present. At a point, Joy raised her voice, pressing that if Jackman was sincere he should directly disavow the alleged statement outright. No equivocation, no hedging. She said that vague responses are precisely why public figures are mistrusted. That challenge struck a nerve. Jackman's jaw clenched. He leaned forward, meeting her gaze, and responded sharply that he was not going to be lectured on integrity by someone twisting words on live TV. The audience gasped, and the hosts momentarily froze. Joy bristled. She shot back that as a journalist and host, her role is to hold guests accountable, to push them beyond comfort zones. She accused him of trying to sidestep the truth. Jackman countered that incessant ambush-style questioning is unfair in a format meant for conversation, not interrogation. The clash of roles, a entertainer versus host, he erupted on screen, each believing the other was overstepping. The viewers sensed the fault lines forming between cordial discourse and outright confrontation. The co-hosts attempted to intervene. One of them asked a softer question about his film, hoping to diffuse the tension, but the momentum had shifted. Joy would not yield. Jackman, evidently frustrated, took a breath, tried to smile, but then said, with measured firmness, that if Joy would continue pressing this line, he might walk away. The hush in the studio was palpable. Audience members leaned forward. Camera crews held their frame. Joy, undeterred, insisted she would pursue the question until she received a clear answer, and no hedging, no avoidance. She framed it as her duty to viewers. Jackman's patience snapped. With a curt "I'm sorry, I refuse to continue down this path," he stood up, visibly upset. The co-hosts gasped. The audience murmured. Then he collected his notes and walked toward the stage exit. The live show froze in that moment. A host stunned, audience in disbelief. Producers and stagehands sprang into action, frantically signaling to cut to commercial or redirect the broadcast. The cameras diverted, the raised voices faded, and the sudden break was abrupt. The hosts exchanged worried glances. Joy's face registered a mixture of triumph and shock. The studio lights seemed harsher, the silence heavier. The moment of ejection was final. Hugh Jackman, mid-confrontation, had effectively walked off the set, ushered out by production staff. After the break, the show resumed with a different tone. The hosts attempted to apologize to the viewers, To explain that an unexpected turn of events had happened, Joy gave a brief remark, claiming her questions were fair and necessary, that she dared to ask difficult things. The others tried to pivot to less volatile topics, but the disruption lingered. Social media exploded. Viewers debated who was right, whose approach was proper, whose temper broke first. Clips of the heated exchange went viral immediately. On YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, a snippet of Jackman standing, walking away. Joy's sharp retorts became fodder for commentary, memes, and heated debate. News outlets picked up the story as a scandal. Why was a respected actor humiliated on a daytime show? Did Joy cross a line? Was Jackman justified in leaving? Analysts weighed in on the dynamics of celebrity, accountability, media entrapment, and the risks of live TV. Some commentators defended Joy as fulfilling her journalistic duty, insisting celebrities must answer tough questions. Others rallied around Jackman, saying he was bullied on air, disrespected, humiliated. Fan posts demanded apologies. Talk show hosts replayed the sequence. The cultural conversation shifted. What are the bounds of press versus entertainment? When is it fair to confront, and when is it overreach? The incident touched on power, civility, and public personas clashing in high pressure. Behind the scenes, sources claimed that producers had foreseen tension, but had not anticipated the flare-up reaching ejection level. Some insiders said Joy had pressed harder than usual. Others said Jackman was unusually guarded, more unwilling to tolerate perceived badgering. In post-show debriefs, there were discussions about control, stage management, whether the show should have intervened earlier, whether guest agreements should be stricter. In subsequent days, both parties issued statements. Jackman reportedly expressed disappointment that a conversation turned into confrontation, saying he hoped for respect and balance in interviews. Joy defended her style, saying viewers deserve honesty, not division. PR teams from both sides released talking points, clarified what was said, what was cut, and what the public saw. The incident wound through entertainment news cycles for weeks. Looking back, the moment is emblematic of modern media clashes, where celebrity and journalism collide under the pressure of live broadcast, where sound bites override nuance, and where any misstep becomes headline. Hugh Jackman's departure from The View is now remembered as a dramatic flashpoint, a lesson about boundaries, media strategy, and what happens when civility meets confrontation on live television. The story remains a cautionary tale of how quickly rapport can fracture, and how the margin between engaging dialogue and explosive conflict is dramatically thinned. After the broadcast, production staff worked overtime trying to control the narrative. Publicists reached out to Jackman's management, offering a private apology and suggesting a possible follow-up interview to clarify misunderstandings. But reports indicated the actor was deeply disappointed, feeling blindsided and misrepresented. Friends close to him described his mood as frustrated but composed. Meanwhile, Joy Behar maintained her stance that she was just doing her job, insisting she never intended to offend but believed in direct, unfiltered conversation. The network's internal communications leaked within a day, showing executives debating whether to issue a public apology or stand by their host. Some argued that siding with Jackman might protect relationships with Hollywood stars who feared similar treatment. Others defended Joy, emphasizing that controversy drives ratings. Behind the polished smiles of morning television, corporate tensions brewed. Each faction saw the incident as a litmus test for how far the show could push celebrity guests without damaging its brand. Overnight, Hugh Jackman trended globally. Fans flooded social media, expressing anger toward Joy and the show's producers. Memes portrayed Jackman as the gentleman who kept his dignity while Joy was cast as the provocateur. Late-night hosts joked about the confrontation, parodying the walk-off moment, turning a serious argument into viral comedy. Yet under the laughter lay a serious discussion about the ethical boundaries of televised journalism and the dignity owed to public figures. By the next morning, entertainment media dissected every second of the altercation. Body language experts were invited to analyze their gestures and tones. "You can see the tension in his eyes," one analyst said, replaying the clip in slow motion. Others noted Joy's unrelenting posture as a sign of dominance. The scene became a study in public relations and interpersonal communication, a real-time meltdown under the unforgiving gaze of millions. The spectacle had become an academic case in modern media behavior. Amid the frenzy, Jackman broke his silence through a carefully worded post on his official account. He thanked fans for their support and reaffirmed his respect for journalists but said that boundaries were crossed that day. His tone was calm and graceful, yet his message was clear: civility matters. The post received millions of likes and was shared by celebrities who praised his restraint. Joy responded indirectly on The View, saying, "Some people can't handle the heat when it's honest." That line reignited the fire. The following week, tension spilled over into the show's studio audience. Some ticket holders booed when Joy entered, others shouted Jackman's name in support. The atmosphere was charged. Producers began screening questions and warning the crowd to maintain decorum. Still, the air of controversy wouldn't fade. The network saw a temporary ratings boost, but the reputation of the show was at stake. Even fellow hosts privately questioned whether Joy's persistence had gone too far. Behind the scenes, a quiet meeting took place between the showrunners, Joy, and network executives. Sources claimed that the talk was intense but professional. Joy defended her approach as authentic and journalistic, while producers urged her to balance boldness with empathy. They reminded her that The View thrives on conversation, not confrontation. Although no disciplinary action was announced, insiders revealed that management urged Joy to issue a soft clarification, a diplomatic move to ease tensions. The situation escalated further when an uncut version of the interview leaked online. The longer footage showed previously unseen exchanges, including moments where producers tried to cut to commercial but Joy insisted on continuing. The public reaction shifted slightly. Some viewers realized Jackman's patience had lasted longer than originally believed. Sympathy for him deepened, and even some of Joy's longtime fans admitted she had perhaps crossed an invisible line of professionalism. Talk show commentators on rival programs seized the opportunity to criticize The View. They discussed how celebrity interviews have become battlegrounds for moral posturing instead of genuine dialogue. One host quipped, "You don't invite a guest to dinner and interrogate them about dessert." The analogy resonated online, symbolizing the imbalance between entertainment and accountability. The discourse spilled into mainstream culture, transforming a TV spat into a symbol of larger societal friction. Amid all this, Hugh Jackman retreated from public appearances for several weeks. He focused on filming commitments and charity work, declining talk show invitations. Friends described him as reflective, preferring actions to words. Yet rumors circulated that he would eventually break his silence in a long-form podcast interview. Producers from multiple platforms competed for the exclusive. The anticipation built up as fans wondered if he would reveal new details about what really happened behind the scenes. Eventually, a month later, Jackman appeared on a respected journalist's program. Calm and articulate, he recounted the incident without bitterness. He explained that he values open dialogue but also mutual respect. When conversation turns into confrontation, he said, the audience stops learning and starts judging. His mature approach earned widespread praise. Viewers admired how he turned a negative moment into a teaching example about dignity and restraint in public life. The View, meanwhile, continued facing internal strain. Some advertisers reconsidered partnerships, citing brand sensitivity. Producers brainstormed ways to repair relations with the entertainment industry. Joy, though unrepentant publicly, was reportedly advised to take a brief hiatus. She appeared less frequently for several weeks, while guest hosts filled in. Ratings fluctuated, proving that controversy brings attention but not always loyalty. The team realized damage control was more delicate than they'd anticipated. As time passed, discussions around the incident evolved from anger to analysis. Universities used the episode in media ethics classes, dissecting how emotion, ego, and live broadcasting collide. Communication experts noted how the Jackman-Behar clash illustrated both the power and peril of unscripted television. The story transcended celebrity gossip, Entering the realm of cultural critique, it was less about who was right and more about what the moment revealed about the media ecosystem itself. Months later, Hugh and Joy crossed paths again at a charity gala. Eyewitnesses reported a brief exchange, a polite, reserved, but civil. They shook hands, posed for a group photo, and went their separate ways. Insiders said both understood the value of letting the controversy fade gracefully. Though their public personas remained distinct, the mutual acknowledgements suggested that time had softened the edges of that explosive day. In the end, the saga of Hugh Jackman being kicked off The View became more than a viral story. It evolved into a cautionary legend of modern media culture. It revealed how easily conversation can spiral into spectacle, how reputations can turn overnight, and how audiences crave both conflict and closure. For Jackman, it reaffirmed his image as a dignified professional. For Joy, it reminded her of the fine line between fearless questioning and relentless provocation. The lesson endures: respect, once lost on live television, is not easily regained. In the months that followed, producers at The View quietly adjusted their interview guidelines. Future guests received advance outlines of possible topics, and new staff training focused on balancing tough questions with empathy. The Hugh Jackman incident had become a turning point, a silent reference point in production meetings. Whenever discussions grew tense, someone would half-jokingly say, "Let's not have another Jackman moment." The phrase became shorthand for avoiding on-air implosions. The team knew that one mismanaged interview could ripple through reputations for years. Meanwhile, fans noticed subtle changes in Joy Behar's demeanor on the show. Though still witty and outspoken, she occasionally paused before pursuing controversial topics. Some interpreted it as newfound restraint, others saw it as self-censorship. In interviews, she hinted at introspection without conceding wrongdoing. "I'm passionate," she said, "but I'm not heartless." Her supporters applauded her resilience. Critics argued the entire situation revealed her stubborn streak. Either way, the ordeal reshaped how audiences perceived her. For Hugh Jackman, the episode marked a personal and professional evolution. Industry insiders observed that his future interviews carried a calmer, more deliberate tone. He became selective about appearances, preferring platforms where conversations felt authentic rather than confrontational. The clash, though unpleasant, reminded him of the fragility of public image. Friends described him as more guarded but also more grounded, focusing on projects that reflected his values rather than chasing headlines. The entertainment industry, ever watchful, learned from the spectacle. Publicists revised media training for their clients, preparing them for unexpected provocations. Workshops began including the Jackman Protocol, emphasizing composure under live pressure. Clips from The View segment were shown as cautionary footage, not as humiliation, but as instruction. How to pause, breathe, and pivot gracefully became essential skills. Hugh's walk-off wasn't seen as weakness anymore, it was reinterpreted as a boundary-setting masterclass. Interestingly, the controversy sparked discussions about gender dynamics in media confrontation. Some analysts questioned whether Joy would have been criticized as harshly if she were male, while others argued that Hugh's calmness set a new standard for handling hostility. Social commentators debated whether audiences subconsciously expected men to endure aggression without reaction, and women to tone theirs down. The Jackman-Behar clash became a lens through which gender, tone, and power were all examined. As documentaries and retrospectives emerged about the most shocking moments in daytime TV, this episode found its place among the greats. Producers replayed it alongside iconic talk show walkouts, contextualizing it as a sign of how far live media could push boundaries before breaking civility. Hugh's measured walk toward the exit was replayed like a cinematic scene, each frame analyzed for symbolism. The simplicity of standing up and leaving had transformed into an act of silent defiance that audiences wouldn't forget. In later interviews, Jackman reflected philosophically on what happened. He said that while confrontation is sometimes inevitable, respect is always a choice. If you lose your calm, you lose control, he noted in one podcast, echoing the lesson he'd learned that day. His fans embraced the message, turning quotes from that interview into viral sound bites. Over time, The scandal evolved from a point of tension into a source of wisdom, a proof that even chaos can produce clarity. Joy Behar, on her part, gradually reasserted her dominance in the talk show space. She returned to form, tackling political and social issues with her signature mix of humor and intensity. But she also carried an undercurrent of reflection. Occasionally, when debates on the show grew heated, she would glance toward the audience and quip, "Don't worry, I'm keeping it civil. I learned my lesson." The remark always drew laughter, but also acknowledgement that her on-air persona had been reshaped by that defining clash. Public opinion eventually softened toward both of them. Time dulled the edges of outrage. Fans began to view the incident less as a scandal and more as a human moment, two strong personalities colliding under bright lights. In retrospection, people admired Jackman's restraint and respected Joy's boldness, even if they disagreed with her method. It became a story of perspective, where no one was entirely villain or victim. The media cycle had moved on, but the echoes lingered. The View's producers later invited Jackman for a potential reconciliation appearance. Negotiations took months, with conditions carefully set to ensure mutual respect. Although he didn't immediately accept, insiders said he appreciated the offer. The idea of returning symbolized closure, a chance to rewrite the ending on his terms. Whether or not it happened, the gesture alone represented growth, signaling that bridges once burned could still be rebuilt through sincerity. Meanwhile, social psychologists began referencing the incident in studies about emotional contagion on live television. They noted how audience reactions amplified tension, how energy in a room could escalate conflict beyond reason. The Jackman-Behar clash served as empirical proof of how shared emotional dynamics fuel on-screen drama. In lectures, professors emphasized how authenticity, when mishandled, turns into volatility, a warning for anyone performing authenticity for cameras. The story also inspired filmmakers and screenwriters. Within a year, scripts circulated loosely based on the event, fictional talk shows where truth and image collide, where interviews spiral into televised showdowns. Though no film directly portrayed the Jackman episode, its fingerprints were evident in pop culture. It had become a symbol, not of scandal, but of how vulnerability and pride coexist under public scrutiny. Even art began to echo the drama born in that brightly lit studio. By the following year, both Hugh and Joy were publicly thriving. He starred in new projects to critical acclaim, while she enjoyed renewed relevance as a cultural commentator. Ironically, their clash had elevated both of them in different ways, a proof that controversy, if survived, can evolve into currency. Producers joked that maybe the entire drama had been a cosmic PR accident, a storm that ultimately strengthened everyone involved. In quiet interviews, however, both admitted the experience had left emotional marks. Hugh confessed that the day taught him how easily good intentions could be misunderstood in the public sphere. Joy acknowledged that she learned about empathy through backlash, that asking hard questions requires equal parts courage and compassion. Their words hinted at mutual respect formed through friction, an unspoken understanding that neither truly won, but both grew. Years later, when entertainment retrospectives mention Hugh Jackman kicked off The View, audiences no longer see just conflict, they see transformation. The clip has become a timeless reminder that behind every viral moment lies real emotion, vulnerability, and humanity. What began as a heated exchange became a lasting narrative about grace under pressure and the thin line between conversation and confrontation. The legacy of that day endures, not as scandal, but as a testament to growth, humility, and the unpredictable theater of live television.